Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Around the Halo episode 7. Here we are. We have a group of usual suspects and some new players with us tonight as well. Before we get started, as per usual, our notifications are off on the channel because we're running a show and recording in which this will eventually go to YouTube, but just know that we do appreciate everybody, and as per usual, we will go through some of our conversation with chat as we finish up our conversations as we go around the Halo, so please feel free to keep those questions coming, and we love you all. So starting off tonight, we have Joel Stepanek up here at Chasing Humility, and from Word on Fire, we have Jared Zimmerer joining us for the first time tonight. Super excited to have him. Thank you for joining us. And of course, the CEO of Little Flower Media, the beard Blevins down here on the lower left, and then Darnell Miller here on the lower right at Mac Studios UST. You know, I just noticed, Darnell, that I left the one for Mac Studios and I forgot to put up your handle, which I will allow you to shout out later. No problem, but I do apologize. Sorry about that. So let's go around the Halo a little bit and get everybody started with a quick introduction, starting at our top left here with Joel Stepanek. Go ahead, Joel.
It is so good to be back after a month of travel. I spent some time in Spain, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Florida, and then rounded out that trip in Wisconsin. You know what I found? That it's a dangerous business, John, going out your door. You step out onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to. And it's good to be swept back here with all of you.
Fantastic intro. Well done, concise, and controlled. Jared, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, Jared Zimmerer, the Senior Director of Bishop Barron's Word on Fire Institute, going on 15 years of marriage with my wife, and we have 6 children, so my house is utter chaos, but I absolutely love it. So great to be with you guys. Big fan of what you guys are doing. Love this show, and just looking forward to the conversation.
Congratulations, Jared. And you said you have 6? Is that
6
correct?
kids,
yeah, I've got 5. It's not a competition, but I'm losing, so I'm going to get to work. John, go for it.
Hey, Jonathan, Beard of Blevins, thanks everybody for being here, especially those who are back from last Tuesday's part of the intercession and are here for the first time tonight. Welcome, everybody. I'm just having a hard time here in Illinois with the weather. That's where I'm at right now. It was freezing cold yesterday and then really warm in the afternoon and then great today. And then it's going to be in the 40s the next few days. So, Joel, you were in Wisconsin on maybe a good day, but it's good to be where you are in Arizona.
Don't remember, it's nothing personal. It's just that God hates Illinois. Darnell, take it away.
Hey, Darnell, second time on the show. I'm super happy to be back, producer at Mac Studios, and I'm also very happy I'm not in Illinois, although here in Houston, we did get like 6 inches of pollen on our front yard this weekend, so still recovering from that, but all things considered, it's good to go. Yeah,
did you make a pollen creature out of it?
Yeah.
Roll that up and put some eyes on it?
Angel. Exactly.
Yeah, pollen angels. The only thing is I'd come back out of that just completely wrecked and destroyed, hit by a train.
I got to tell you that, unfortunately, in my mind's eye, a pollen man instead of a snowman is infinitely more terrifying. I don't know why, but doing stuff in 6 inches of pollen just seems like a nightmare scenario.
Imagine the flower head monsters from Last of Us, and that's kind of Texas right now.
That's incredible. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. As per usual, we are giving away points that don't really matter except to me, and it is just about the comments that our 4 incredible people make here. We're basically going to be doling them out for anything that we like or enjoy, or that I think is a really super spicy hot take, which collectively as a group everyone is really good at. I can't give points to myself, otherwise I would win every week. We are going to start it off with the Masters. One of the things that perhaps feels as though it lost a little bit of relevance after Tiger was out. Obviously, the story around him is pretty incredible at the moment. But when my dad says you got to recognize what Tiger has done for the game, I think this is the kind of stuff he was talking about, where all of a sudden this is the first time I was paying attention for a while. Joel, what do you think? Why don't you start us off with this one?
I think nobody watches golf unless there's a good storyline. When's the last time, and you hit it on that, when's the last time anybody watched the Masters, like in the broader world? I know if you're into golf, yeah, maybe, but it's not a fun game to watch. it's got a high cost of entry to learn how to golf and to be on greens and to have clubs. So it's not even a sport that people can watch and be like, oh, I aspire to do that and I get inspired and whatever. But there was a good story. We only watch golf when there's a good story, and Tiger Woods gave us a good story. And I think there's something to be said about that, though. And that's why I like the Masters this year, because it affirms how powerful stories are. And it's a good story. It's not a negative story. It's not somebody getting hit across the face kind of story. It's not somebody doing something bad kind of story. It's a redemption story. It's a good story. It's a feel-good story, making the Masters relevant until it goes out into oblivion for another 20 years.
Totally understand. But how dare you, if my father-in-law were here, he would try to punch you in the mouth. He can't because he's too feeble and old, but that's the general consensus I think he would give to you. Jared, what do you think about the Masters?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm not really a golf guy, so I watched some videos of it while preparing for our conversation today. So now I'm basically an expert in all things golf. But the one thing I can say that I am unbelievably impressed is Cameron Smith's mullet. It is absolutely glorious. And to me, that is like the pinnacle of a cultural achievement, that at something as dignified as the Masters is now rocking a mullet. I'm down for that. And I feel like they should bring some Natty Light out onto the course and just really round it off,
You can be in the foursome with John Daly with those kind of takes for sure. He would let you in. Jonathan, what do you think?
So I understand the whole take on golf. In fact, I tweeted something kind of dumb recently where I said golf's the easiest sport of all time, and I do take that back. Because the Masters is awesome and golf in general is great. It's fun to watch. I've recently been doing Omni Fantasy, where you draft like a player from every sport or a team from every sport. So that's gotten me into golf. I've actually watched more than normal. But even if you're just turning on the Masters at the perfect springtime, it's almost always either the week before or the week of Holy Week, depending when it falls. It's the best time to roll the windows down and take a nap and listen to the great sounds of the soothing sounds of the announcer's voice. But it was a great tournament. I watched a lot of it because I'm streaming now, and I was able to have the TV on above it and watch Tiger Woods. But man, the Tiger Woods story, like Joel said, redemption. It was all about redemption. It's what humanity is all about. I think that it's one of the best sports stories in the last 25 years, not just this tournament where Tiger almost died in a car accident, almost lost his leg, and then came back and played like a year later. That's incredible. But his whole arc, his whole story from being putting golf on the map, basically the Michael Jordan of golf, and everyone's hero, right? Getting kids interested in golf for the first time in a long time nationally. And then he has a horrible thing happen with his marriage and makes a lot of mistakes. And then he comes back from that and tries to become a better person and wins a couple more majors. And then he has a couple other huge setbacks. It's a crazy redemption story. Love what Tiger Woods was able to do. And I hope he does not retire.
That is fair. We're going to move on to Darnell, who I know for a fact has several course records in the world of golf. So I'm really looking forward to what he has to say.
If we're talking mini golf, absolutely. And I will admit right here, I do not intentionally watch golf. I have been to golf tournaments as a previous stint as a college sports photographer. So I admit, like in person, it's fun, right? You get to drive the cart, you get to drink, you get to have your hot dogs, all that kind of stuff. Awesome. But if it's on TV or on a computer, whatever, I think you're better served going to YouTube and watching people play mini golf. There's a whole world of that already exists. And the drama, you think the Masters is good. The drama there, like you have the windmills, you have, the little obstacles, the bank courses, is everything you want packaged super tightly. You can get the whole 18 holes in like half an hour. Well worth it.
That's amazing. Okay, we're going to move on to our next topic, but I just want to mention that in a discussion about the Masters, Darnell is in the lead after talking about mini golf and why it's better, which is a very unique element in the world of Around the Halo. Moving along to our next topic, Easter crowds. So this is one that I know comes up regularly every year. I will say the same thing that I know that my dad has articulated to me in the past. How about some kind of punch card system where these masses aren't so crowded based on how many Sundays you came to previous to this? Now, of course, that was based on him recently having had a hip replacement and just being irritated that we had to go to Mass 45 minutes early. But what do you think about the crowds that come along with the Easter season, Jared?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, part of it is anytime I go to mass at all with all of my family, I'm coming with 8 people. So we don't get a pew anyway, because we end up in the choir loft almost every Sunday, no matter what. So not my problem. But the one thing that is funny is how people treat the pews. So if we actually do try to get in, you better believe you're not going to get the edge, because people will get up, get out into the aisle and let you in. And I even warn them sometimes, hey, I've got 6 kids, guarantee you everyone gonna go to the bathroom by themselves eventually. So you're gonna have to get up 6 times. And they don't care, they're cool with it. So, but it's an interesting kind of a mixture of the American Easter experience of the minute we're done going to mass, we're gonna go celebrate the bunny and do all of that. But I don't know, I love seeing churches just packed full. So it's hard for me to be too harsh on it, but at the same time, it is kind of, we still have this problem where we don't actually talk to each other whenever we see new people. We don't introduce ourselves. I think that's kind of a bit of a Catholic problem. So what I would like to see, actually, my Easter crowd take is that's like our Super Bowl, where we really need to meet all these new people and actually invite them to our homes or whatever it might be. But we're not very, very welcoming, unfortunately.
Yeah, and part of it could be potentially difficult because it really is a first meeting in most circumstances, or perhaps a twice-a-year type situation. So I totally understand where you're coming from, and we kind of have to break down the barriers a little bit. Well, John, you have an experience in which Easter has been a high output working weekend for you in your past. So what do you think about the Easter crowd this coming year?
Yeah, I mean, you bringing that up when for the last 14 years, I've been around on Easter, at least when I moved to Illinois. So for the last 7 or 8, we were expected to be there for the Easter Vigil, for all of the Triduum, and then for Easter Sunday for a couple of masses, to be welcoming and hospitable, like Jared's saying. And I do think that's really important. I agree that it is our Super Bowl. I think, though, that it's time for us to be a little more bold in our preaching. And when I say our, I mean, I can't really preach at mass. So the people who can, our priests and our great deacons. But I just have been thinking about this a lot lately. I think that we really need to start being passionate and bold in pastoring our churches without worrying so much what people think. And we can do that in a loving way. So one of the things I've heard a priest say, which is just the worst thing you could ever say, is, just so you guys know, there's mass every Sunday, every single Christmas or Easter. That no one is going to be like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm going to come back now. I'm not talking about that. But I mean, in general, little ways that we can begin to pastor parishes and help people understand what's going on, like clapping at the end of mass. It's just, if every single week the priest would just teach one new thing that takes a minute and then move on to the rest of the homily, it'd be huge. Here's why we don't clap at the end of mass. Here's why we elevate the book of the Gospels and other parts that we elevate in the mass. Here's why we use incense. Here's why we use candles. And here's why we have stained glass, and just keeping things like that. And then for Easter mass, just have a little challenge for everyone. If you think you're a disciple and you're mad that these places are crowded, reread the Passion story and look what Peter did. If you only show up 2 times a year, I want to invite you to be here more. We miss you. You're a part of our church. If you've forgotten that if you've not forgiven a family member, but you sing in the choir every single week, and haven't been to confession in a year, I would invite you to consider that this year. I just think there's ways we can lovingly invite people and challenge everyone without being a jerk about it. And so I think it's a great opportunity for hospitality, but also time for some loving boldness.
I appreciate that. That's well said. Don't be a jerk about it. Darnell, how are you going to not be a jerk about it?
I don't know. I do agree with Jonathan about the priest needing to kind of pass over those snide comments of hey, where have you been, kind of thing, and authentically welcome people. And I think it's more and more up to the lay people to do that too. I mean, they're the ones running all the ministries. They're the ones that need the help to do whatever events. And so they need to be the ones to make that outreach too. But I'd be lying if I didn't say there's a little part of me who's if I have to stand up for this entire service, I'm going to be pissed. So yeah, we do the same thing. We get there 45 minutes early. And one thing I found works well, if you want to get a seat, is if you participate in some way. If there's extra things happening at that mass, they give you the seat because you have the reserved pews. So cheat code, do that. That's what I've been doing. Guaranteed seat. That's how you beat the system. Volunteer.
Absolutely. Volunteer to beat the system. Joel, you seem like a guy who would volunteer, but not just to beat the system. What do you think?
Well, I would only volunteer if I'd really discerned it and prayed about it and had taken my time with it. Here, I hope it kills me to say this. I I hope there's no crowds. I hope there are no Easter crowds at a lot of parishes. And this isn't going to be the case at some, but I hope there's not a lot at many. And I hope that lack of people at a mass where you've had folks in leadership or the priest or the congregation who have always complained, who have always lamented the fact that there are people who have always made the snide jokes. I hope it finally shocks them out of the malaise in which they've existed for the past several years. And they recognize, oh no, we've made some serious mistakes, because this thing that was such a problem isn't a problem anymore. And what does that mean? That means that all of the people that were showing up just on Christmas and Easter that you complained about, that you talked about, that you said, oh, how do we get them back? But we never did anything about, finally we're like, you know what? If it's just Christmas or Easter, maybe it's better if it's just nothing. And I hope in my heart of hearts, because I know the Lord blesses those people. He's going to be with those people, and he's going to stay with those people through their journey, and maybe not hold them to the same standard of accountability that the leadership that's neglected that part of the flock for so long will be held to. But something's got to shake people out of this malaise. And unfortunately, over the past year, even COVID in some places didn't do it. But I just wonder if there was one year where things were a little bit less, that those churches would go out, and instead of complaining about the 2 times a year that people showed up and crowded the church, they were like, they're not coming anymore. We've got to get out there. That's my hope. So as much as it kills me to say that, I hope in some places there aren't crowds, and I hope that finally forces people outside of those doors to go get them.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Joel. An incredibly true hot take coming from the perspective of maybe this will be an eye-opening moment for a group of people that would normally complain about something that is designed, hopefully, to at least be a gateway into deepening their relationship with Christ. But we will move on to buy or sell coffee snobbery. This is one that is near and dear to my heart because I, as much as I like to say, I'll drink a cup of coffee, no big deal, whatever. That is not the case at all. I find myself eliminating things off of the list. I find myself ordering more and more fancy beverages from certain places, and I definitely, in the world of coffee, would fall into a coffee snob. Not in my behavior, but in my ordering, hopefully. So, John, you're going to start this one off. What do you think, buy or sell?
I am going to sell coffee snobbery. And this is crazy because I am a foodie and I love a good beverage. And I certainly used to buy being a coffee snob. I went from having a Keurig in college to an AeroPress, to a pour over, to a Chemex, to making my own cold brew in my fridge, to an espresso machine, back to just buying cold brew. It's all the same. It just takes too long. It's not worth. I love coffee, but it's not worth the effort that it takes to use a Chemex, a pour over, or an AeroPress. I'm busy. I got kids. It's all the same. Just give me the caffeine or the focus water. I'm selling coffee snobbery.
What a fantastic take. And this coming right off the heels of you becoming a sommelier after watching that documentary about
I
wine.
watched one wine documentary and I am
expert.
a sommelier, and Jesus was the first sommelier.
Okay. That's
The
fair.
hottest take.
That's fair. All right, Darnell, take it away. Buy or sell coffee snobbery.
So I don't have a focus water deal, so I am going to buy coffee snobbery because some of us still need it, Jonathan. But I buy because I think that in order to get something that's like you really enjoy, that's really good, not just like I need the caffeine in the morning to keep me going through the day. I think to enjoy the beverage, right? I appreciate it when I've gone to a coffee shop and I've been like, hey, I just want an espresso to go. And the guy was like, no, I can't do that. It's not going to be good, bro. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You got me. Cool. I appreciate that of like saying like, this is going to be a better experience if you let me, who's actually professional, tell you how to do this. So I know sometimes snobbery can be like, oh, I'm better than you. But when it's like genuinely helpful, like, yeah, absolutely. Tell me how to do this better. I want to get better.
That's fair. Joel, what do you think? You drink enough coffee in a day to vibrate into another dimension or what?
I exist in another dimension. I'm buying it. I'm buying it all day for a couple of reasons. Biblically based, Mind you, St. James says that every good and perfect gift comes down from above, from the Father of lights. And early on in the Bible, it says that God gives all of the seed-bearing plants, all the plants, to us for food. This is created good. Coffee is a plant. And when we respect it, when we give people just wages for harvesting it, we have economically global, sustainably sourced, no harm coffee. We're helping populations of people grow their economy. And that sometimes costs a little bit more. But when we treat this beautiful gift the way that God intended it to be treated, we are blessed. We are blessed with alertness and energy. We become, dare I say, in the words of some evangelists out there, the best version of ourselves. And to that end, I would say this, to quote an ancient saying, an ancient proverb, if you will, the corruption of the best things is the worst things. And in that case, coffee as a great thing, a great gift from God, when corrupted and brewed into Folgers, is one of the worst things.
Wow.
Buy it all day.
That is amazing. And similar how your take on coffee and my take on funnel cake at the fair are so closely linked. I mean, just right at the same edge. I mean, I'm a connoisseur when it comes to that kind of stuff, so we're on the same page there. Jared, what are your thoughts here? Big coffee drinker or just get rid of it?
So I do love coffee, but I am selling the idea of coffee snobbery. I'm all about gas station coffee. Give me the thickest, darkest, nastiest coffee where a horseshoe will float in it. I got no problem with that. And most of the time when I get that fancy stuff, it tastes and smells like a fresh mowed lawn. So I have no interest in buying the expensive stuff. I'll take $1.50 coffee any day.
You got to tell them to hold the wheatgrass shot. That's part of the problem. You can't, like
Jared,
some of the
Well, the
high-end
fact that
places.
wheatgrass is an option is I'm against it.
Jared, are you sure that you're not drinking actual oil? Because there's a crisis right now. And you just can't, if they're giving you that at the gas station, you can't just be down in that.
Jared's
Gets the
been
motor
filling
going,
up his
man.
coffee
It's all
cup
good.
at the pump. I don't think that's how it's supposed to work. But
I was going to question Jared tasting freshly mowed lawns, and remember he had 6 kids, and I believe it. Yeah.
he totally gets it. At some point, one of your kids has thrown your lawn into your drink, so I'm sure that's occurred. All right, good one, you guys. Moving on. Buy or sell, phone does it all. So this was a discussion that we had briefly today on stream, but also I know it came up in our kind of pre-text message chain. But just the idea that you can now do almost everything from your phone. And John asked the question during stream, like, do you guys use all the features on your phone, like 100%, just turn it all on? Whatever use Siri and location services and track everything. And the majority of people said no, that they were kind of uncomfortable with using their phone's functionality in this way. But what do you think in terms of having your phone do it all, or maybe even from a work perspective? Like, is it a good idea that you can work effectively exclusively from your phone? Does that make it harder to unplug? I think we are back to Joel starting up this one.
Here again, I'm going to buy it. I'm going to buy it like a dude standing in line at the Apple store for the iPhone 37 in the year 2031. I think that never in the history of humanity have we been like, you know what? I would like my life to be more complicated when there's simple solutions to make it easier. And I think that's one of the gifts that this technology has afforded us. And again, you think about things that you're able to do now that your phone can do, and it can do it all, that before you were just completely unable to do. You can find directions. You can pay for things when you don't have your wallet. You can store, in the state of Arizona, you can store your driver's license as a valid form of identification in your phone. Now, granted, are there drawbacks to this? Absolutely. But that's the case in any sort of technological advancement. And I'm sure eventually when they allow us to implant all of this information into a chip into our hand, it'll be much, much easier then and way less creepy.
Probably way less creepy. I would have given you more points, but you know how I feel about Apple. So
I know, and I shouldn't have said it. As soon as I said it, I'm sorry. No, Samsung, but Samsung, I mean, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. You could have just left it as the generic phone. We don't have to have Apple take over everything all the time. I
stake my claim with my loyalties.
Jared, you may now shape your response based on what the host will enjoy the most. Go ahead.
Well, I am going to sell that as well because I think that we are getting far too addicted to our phones. I'm taking steps to try to detach myself from my phone quite a bit. We actually recently took a family vacation down to San Antonio, and believe it or not, we tried to just use a normal map because little simple skills like that we're just losing. And I don't think that's actually a good thing. The few things that I do use it for, social media, different things like that. The one thing I also is a little bit of an annoyance because smartphones exist and because we always have them in our face. Everyone expects a response within 20 minutes of email or text or any of that kind of stuff. But sometimes you want a little bit of time to kind of mull it over, think about what your response might be. And if it's not always in your pocket or always in your face, it gives you a little bit more time to wait until you sit in front of a laptop to do these kinds of things. But I don't know. I'm not anti-tech at all. I do love tech stuff, but I don't like the idea of just dipping further and further into the tech verse. I'm kind of a old school guy like that, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair. Way to use all the buzzwords to get me on your side. But this is actually one of the interesting things that we have talked about at Little Flower Media, and that's why Jonathan Blevins is such a great CEO, is that there's very realistic expectations about communication and how it works, and that you should maybe not keep email on your phone and just check it a few key times a day so that it doesn't cause you a bundle of stress as you see things show up and then realize that you're not able to deal with it immediately. I didn't really have a segue there, John. I just wanted to compliment you. Go ahead.
He
Hey,
literally
thank
gave you
you.
a point for something you didn't even do on this.
Yeah.
That's because
that did happen. That's correct.
You instituted those policies because you're terrible at texting people back.
no, oh my goodness, dude, shots
So you just
fired.
made it acceptable. I get it, dude. No, I get it. It's cool.
I text everyone back. Every week I will sit down on a chair, not anything else, and I will text every single person back in my phone and answer all DMs and everything once a week. Sometimes I respond if it's really, really important right away. Anyway, I digress, but that was really funny, Joel. And thank you for the compliment, McClure. I agree actually with everything that Jared said, but also because he said things that are good. I think we should, it's embarrassing. I've taken one of my sons to school 4 times this year, and I still need a map, and it's 3 turns, which is ridiculous. Like, I just don't pay attention anymore because I don't have to pay attention. I can talk to him and I can listen to the radio and whatever, and just make sure I'm driving safely. And I do think that we're on our phones too much, but at the same time, it's so convenient. And so for all the convenient things, I like it. A lot of people will say like, oh, aren't you worried about like people spying on you? I am of the belief right now that if you have Wi-Fi, if you have the internet and a phone at all, you're already being spied on. There's nothing you can really do. So I don't care. So I've enabled 2-factor authentication on everything. And I have Apple Pay now, and all my passwords are on my phone, and I have it tracked from my watch in case I lose it. And while all these boomers are taking out their credit card to buy their Starbucks, I can have it reloaded in 2 seconds on my app, pay for my coffee, and then spend that extra 10 seconds I would have wasted on the credit card to pray to our Lord. And so in that way, I think the phone allows me to pray more. Was that a big reach?
That was deep and not manufactured at all, but I loved it.
Reach?
I loved it nonetheless. No, that's true. And chat says can confirm being spied on, and now all 5 of us, after doing this show, for sure going to be on a watch list. So I mean, it's fine. At this point, what's the difference? Just check everything and all the cookies that you ever encounter. All right, Darnell, when the solar flare hits, how are you going to handle it? Buy or sell? Does your phone do it all?
I'm gonna sell on this, and for a couple of different reasons. One, I can't do my entire job on my phone, so I already feel biased and a little jealous for those who can. And then the other one is it makes things too easy and too convenient. I feel like my dad, as I'm about to say this, my dad was very much of the proponent of like carry cash, using a credit card, you don't see the money and it goes. And I'm the same way. I'm like, use your card, because when you have it on your phone, it just disappears. It never really existed. So I like that idea of like something being like tactile, right? Like even pulling out the card, it's still not real money, but at least you're doing something that like your body knows is spending money. On my phone, like there's been times where I've checked my account, I was like, what happened? Where did this go? And then I checked and I'm like, oh, that was just scrolling through different things and just buying things left and right. It's too easy to do it. So that's my thing. It's convenient. Yeah, it's too convenient. We need something pushing back just a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And also, let's go back to push mowers because those self-propelled things are, it's just ruining the lawn maintenance
Sweat
experience.
actually helps your lawn grow faster.
Yeah, it's true. A little extra moisture goes a long
Yeah,
way.
sweat,
Joel.
right.
For what it's worth,
that's true.
if the zombie apocalypse happens, I want Jared with me.
Yeah, because he'll have cash.
I'm pretty sure.
Goodness, you have cash.
I think we've all seen enough zombie movies to know that cash is eventually useless after day 3. That's why you just see it spilt across the streets, when people start trading food instead. Okay, moving on. This is a bit of a tough one based on what was going on today. A couple of different circumstances came up in which celebrities passed away and made national news. So rather than going into one of the specific stories, I thought perhaps it might be better to ask the question, how should we handle celebrity death? And this is one of those things that I think is always a little bit interesting because it seems to have taken on a life of its own from a perspective of like the clickbait type stuff, right? Where it goes right to headlines and then everybody's sort of trying to make a buck off of it instead of perhaps letting the people who were most involved in those individuals' lives kind of deal with it in their own way. So I don't know, this can go a lot of different directions. But I think Jared is up next to start this one.
Yeah, I think that based off your point, I think that hounding the celebrity's family during the kind of post-tragedy is downright sinful. I mean, I think we need to give them some space to grieve and to make it through this process. And I think also this is a moment where people really deal with reality at its utmost. I mean, death is the thing that unites all of humanity. And so for a lot of us, I mean, whenever we have a death in the family, we start questioning ideas about God, about existence, about happiness, about what are we going to do moving forward. And I think one of the worst possible things you can do is to hound them with cameras and just make it kind of a living hell for them during this process. So allow them time to grieve, allow them time to actually think through what their response might be. And I also think then, as far as like the average person, so us who aren't the Kobe Bryants and some of the other folks who have recently died, is a ton of prayer. And I think adding, even like in mass, adding it to the intentions, so that they know like we're thinking about our culture, we're aware of what's going on in our culture, and we want to pray for these families. I think that's the proper attitude to do. And then of course, if there's any nonprofits or anything that they supported that we happen to like and happen to fits our kind of ethos of life, let's support it. Let's figure out a way to help the family in that way too. So I don't know. It kind of sickens me whenever I see the press just hound the family after a death.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, what do you think about this? I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but is it a little too easy for people to become calloused about a circumstance like this? That as though there's like there's some type of immediate protection that involves celebrity where people can just say whatever they want?
Yeah, I don't know how we're ever going to fix this issue. It's a huge one, and I'll get into that in just a second. But what Jared said about prayer, man, if everybody who tweeted, I'm praying for, and then name the issue, if everybody did that, we'd see a lot more miracles. I really think, like, take that. It's so easy to tweet and much more different and more difficult to go into an adoration chapel, go to your church, go to your inner room and pray. So that's huge and well said, Jared. It's crazy. I want to be vulnerable here at the risk of getting memed, but I just don't care. This is the world we live in. Like a couple of years ago when my brother blew up, and I had a bunch of people text message me, and then Ninja was #1 trending, like on Instagram and Twitter, and it was a joke. It was a complete meme, and I guess I won't say what it said, to not get whatever posted on. But I literally thought my brother died, and I thought I was finding out from Twitter and Instagram, and I was like, this is how this could happen. This is a real thing. I really could find out from social media, and that is crazy. So just recently, Dwayne Haskins passed away, NFL quarterback, drafted in the first round, an amazing man, like inspired a lot of people, great with kids. And then Adam Schefter tweets the news out and points out that he didn't have a great NFL career. And then all of a sudden, instead of remembering Dwayne Haskins, everyone in the world, including former and current football players, are roasting Adam Schefter. So now it's all flipped upside down completely just because Adam Schefter made a mistake. And it was a bad mistake. It wasn't great, but now everyone's just piling on him instead of sharing the good memories of Dwayne Haskins. And so it's just crazy to me how much we're consumed by this when it happens. It's scary. I can't even imagine being a family member. And I do have one that's a celebrity. I can't imagine like how I would ever have to deal with a tragedy. I hope it never happens. But it's super sad. Prayer is super important. And prayers for Dwayne Haskins' family and for Gilbert as well, who passed away. One of my favorite characters ever was Iago in Aladdin. And I had no idea he was a stand-up comic and had all these other things as a kid. He was just, to me, he was Iago, and just a legendary voice. So we'll be praying for his family as well. But yeah, we have a long way to go if we're going to start handling celebrity deaths well.
Yeah. And it's especially interesting from a perspective that, like, you're talking about finding things out from Twitter. Darnell, what do you think? Is like that the role of journalism to like do a deep dive on the death of a celebrity, or is that something that's just a step too far?
Yeah, I think it's a step too far too. I do think it's, headlines, tragedy, brings in money, and so having headlines that are going to bring people in is what they're going for. So I think media is one thing, but I also think of there's in YouTube, there's also a culture. It's something where we don't know exactly what happened. You start to get into the conspiracy theories, and I think those are even worse than just kind of like insensitive news, right? Because they're starting to speculate onto things that may or may not be true based off whatever, and it's completely disrespectful to the family, to that person's memory. But I think also on a personal level, for me, whenever celebrities die, I note it and it's like, oh, that's sad. And then I just kind of move on. Like I don't even think to be like, oh, I should pray for them in this moment, because I think it just seems so far removed, right? They're people who aren't really people because they're famous and they're out there, and I've never seen them before in my personal life, so it doesn't affect me. And I think for a lot of people, if they aren't consumed by news, if they aren't in it, if it's a celebrity they're not super acquainted with, it's just really easy to just brush it off, when it could be just a wonderful moment to kind of pause, reflect, consider your own life, give thanks, and to offer a prayer for their soul and for salvation. And I need to do that personally, but I think we as a culture could do that better too.
Yeah, that's fair. Joel, I think this is one of those things that kind of segues into this element where sometimes it seems like the death piece of a celebrity is more about the celebrity than it is about the death, if that makes sense. And there are oftentimes people being celebrated that perhaps shouldn't be, or that perhaps shouldn't, things noted in a certain way because of our past history. I'm going to throw Steve Jobs out there as a version of a guy who seems to be like the king of something that I'm not sure he was fully responsible for. But then when he passed away, everybody acted like he was Einstein. And I was like, is this the same guy that like would yell at people in boardroom meetings and take credit for everybody else's work? Like, what is happening right now? And it's because of a status thing that it gets, to that like level of celebrity. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a couple aspects of the human condition that are going on here. And you hit on one of them, which is the desire to immediately make somebody a myth and turn them into a legend as soon as they die. We feel like that's the best way to honor them, is to make them larger than life, make them into this crazy, even godlike figure, and ignore some of the places where that person may have hurt others, or to recognize there are people in that person's life that maybe they didn't reconcile with. I think there's an appropriate time to do that, though, because on the flip side, there's also the tendency to reduce people to topics or stories, or to dehumanize them, to objectify them, for lack of a better term, into entertainment. And so then we want all the details of the death, and we want to pile on, and we want to even say some negative things or remind people of the negative realities of that person's life, when that person has family, friends. We've hit on all of that. People who are really grieving and mourning, who probably don't need to have all of the details of the shortcomings of that person recounted for them. I mean, very few of us want to go to a funeral and have the eulogist get up and say, well, she was a great person, but we also know she struggled pretty mightily from the ages 35 to 37. And I don't think we need to go there. We want to remember people in an appropriate way. And I think that's sort of the challenge that we have. And here's the final thing that I think is almost tragic, is we hold up celebrities in such esteem, and we focus on them with such fervor, that sometimes after celebrities die, people are crushed. they are devastated. They are mourning. They are weeping. I think that's very telling about the relationships we have in our life, and then how we handle death. And does the death of a celebrity matter more than right now the person in an assisted living facility down the road who's lived a wonderful, full life, but is about to die alone? Are they not worth the same level of mourning? And I think that's sort of maybe a time to reevaluate, what are we doing with our celebrity worship? And if a death affects us that much where we're broken, there's some deeper things I think we need to work on.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And a parting thought with this, I think that there's often something that gets lost between a celebrity and a person who perhaps was an entertainer, like a true entertainer, right? And so like celebrity is, I was famous for whatever X, Y, and Z. And then there are a few rare people among us who really are born to entertain, and their goal is to make the lives of those around them better, which can be done in a variety of ways. Obviously, sports, film, whatever, stand up, some of those types of things, and they get very muddled. And I think that when everybody wants to just report on this famous person died, it takes away the element of the entertainer who perhaps should be celebrated on a more global, level, or on a grander stage, because that was their life's goal. And so anyway, let's always think of that occasionally in the separation with these individuals who pass away. All right, we got a quick one. Buy or sell? Peeps. Everyone sells. Let's move on. All right, no, just kidding. John, go for it. What do you think about Peeps?
When I was a kid, I liked Peeps.
No points?
Yeah, I did. I don't know why. I don't really remember why. I did. I liked them. They're only good when they're super fresh. Although now, as I'm older, I don't know if that's a thing, if they can be fresh. But I do know this. In July, for some reason, of 2020, they announced, the people who make Peeps, that they were going to make hot tamale Peeps. And that is disgusting. And so I am selling Peeps. I am going, my son, my oldest today, I'm a bad dad. He told me that Peeps were his favorite candy. So I'm selling Peeps so much that I'm not even going to put them in his Easter basket so that he may learn that. And I'm going to tell him that the Peeps ran away because I didn't like them, so that he too will sell Peeps. That's how much I don't like Peeps.
Nice. Amazing. Darnell, what are your strong feelings about Peeps?
So I'm going to sell on Peeps, and this is I love candy. I love candy so much, and Peeps are the worst of every candy in every way. It's marshmallow and sugar, but it's not even good marshmallow. It's not even good sugar. There's no flavor. It hurts your teeth, makes it raw. I mean, your tongue, and it makes it raw if you've been looking on them. It's like the worst of all candies, right? And that's like saying like Smarties or things like that. Like, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have those chalk cigarettes than Peeps. That's how bad they are.
This is great because I sense a candy corn versus Peeps head-to-head showdown coming up around the corner.
Both are bad. Candy corn wins still.
Okay, wow. Got it. Joel, go for it.
Peeps. I'm going to buy Peeps. See, Peeps are an abomination. They're one of those things that somebody should have stopped and said, just because we can doesn't mean that we should. It's sugar on sugar. It's horrific. But why buy Peeps? Because of the fun things you can do with Peeps. Brulee your Peeps. Set them on fire. Caramelize that sugar. Do something funky with it. Give Peeps to your kids. Have them throw them at each other. It's wonderful. And most of all, here's why you buy Peeps. You get two of them. You stick a toothpick in either one of them. You put them in the microwave, and then they battle with one another. As they grow and the toothpicks expands, whichever one stabs the other one first is the winner. It's a great, great Easter game. What better way to celebrate the resurrection than with dueling Peep jousting inside of your microwave? Take that one home. That's a freebie for you tonight. Great
poll, Joel. And by the way, John, if you really need to change the way your son feels about Peeps, you can put one in the microwave, watch its face melt, and then turn it into nightmares instead of a favorite candy.
Oh,
so
nice.
Good luck with that. Jared, what are your thoughts on Peeps?
I'm going to sell as well. Anything that doesn't really have an expiration date at all, I just don't want to eat. But I guess if the zombie apocalypse does happen, there'll probably be plenty of Peeps out there, and that's how we can keep our blood sugar nice and high during that time. Peeps
and Twinkies, I think, are basically the two ways to go. Although I'd rather just probably be done at that point if those are my options. All right, we are going to finish it off with the Triduum. Your favorite part. So from Thursday evening at sundown until Sunday evening, the Triduum takes place. There's a Thursday evening mass. There's a Holy Friday mass, and then Easter Sunday as part of it. So we thought it'd be fun if we went through and talked about what your favorite part of that particular activity was. Or perhaps not the masses or things involving church, but maybe, whatever. If you have some type of family event that you repeat or whatever you might like to discuss. So, Darnell, why don't we start with you on this one?
Sure. So I'm going to say Good Friday. And it seems like a weird one because that's the day our Lord is crucified. But it's also the kind of beginning of our story for us, of our salvation. So I think that's beautiful. But the reason I picked Good Friday is because my church, I go to St. Ambrose, which is a largely Hispanic community. We do something where we carry like the floats, like you see in Spain, you see in Colombia. Our priest is from Colombia. He brought that tradition over. And so I've been one of the cargadores, which is like the dudes that carry him. And so this year, it's funny because I've done this for like a couple years at this point, but this year our priest gave us like a reflection on kind of walking with Christ and carrying Christ in this moment and participating in the passion. And it really enlivened it for me in ways that I hadn't thought about it in years past. And it's funny because I was voluntold to do this by my then fiance, now wife's mother. She just signed me up for this, and I did not want to do it when I first started. And now it's one of my favorite Easter traditions because it's such a beautiful experience. You get to process with the church. People turn out. There's men from across the community, people that we see in church that we don't really know, and this is a time for us to kind of build camaraderie, get to know each other, and we get to share in that kind of that shared struggle of having to carry Christ through this dark moment that will eventually lead to our salvation. So for that reason, that Good Friday is my favorite.
Fair. Good take. Joel, what do you think? Favorite part?
So I think my favorite part of the Triduum is actually the arc that goes between Holy Thursday, which is the night that Jesus celebrated the Last Supper with his disciples, the night he was betrayed, the night he had the agony in the garden, and that moment on Saturday evening when the tomb is empty and there's sort of this breath where we're waiting. I love that arc because it's the part, so much a part of the human experience that we live, the tension, the anxiety of the Garden of Gethsemane, the betrayal of Judas. And I think even this year, one of the things I'm going to be reflecting on is something a friend said to me is, we talk about like, when did scandal first get introduced in the church? Like right there, Judas at the Last Supper was with Jesus and the disciples. Judas had his feet washed by Jesus. Judas was a priest. Like that's where the priesthood was instituted, and he betrays Jesus. And so I think we have to, I think there's this beautiful humanity in Holy Thursday, and then this breath right before Easter Sunday on Holy Saturday. And I love that arc. And honestly, I think the fun thing is on Easter Sunday, not technically part of the Triduum, but on Easter Sunday, I love that you should end Mass with Jesus Christ is risen today. And I sing those last few verses with fervor, absolute fervor. That might be my favorite part.
Well done. I take it back. That's the best one. Jared, favorite part?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Darnell here. I think that Good Friday, for many reasons, I love the tradition of veiling all of the images and the fact that we empty the tabernacle during that time, because it just, you oftentimes forget what you have until it's gone. And so whenever a lot of that beauty is taken away, the very thing we worship is taken away. To me, it's just a wonderful reminder of the reality of what Christ did, of what God himself did for humanity. I also tend to always remind myself of Hans Urs von Balthasar talked about when Christ went into the tomb, in death, he went all the way down. So to the deepest, darkest, kind of grossest places of human sin. And to me, that is such a beautiful reflection on that even a sinner like me, Christ wants. Right? Christ will go to the absolute depths of human despair and bring us up with him, as long as we surrender. And to me, I've just got a natural kind of memento mori style of spirituality that Good Friday just reminds me of. Death is on the doorstep for all of us at any given moment. to the point of where even God, right, himself gave himself to it. So I'd go Good Friday all the way.
Yeah, that's fair. Well said. John, take it away. Favorite part.
You're gonna make me follow that. That was beautiful. I love the Triduum. I really, growing up, never really understood how it all worked. Like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I didn't get it. My mom took me once to a Good Friday service for sure, maybe more. I just don't have a good memory. I don't think I ever went to like that 7 p.m. the Holy Thursday until I was probably in Manitowoc working with Joel maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago. And I loved it. I love Holy Thursday. I want to say that's my favorite. There's parts of Good Friday that I love. But here's what I keep coming back to as I've been praying about this question today is if we do liturgy well in the church, right? And we unplug all the instruments and all the stuff we're supposed to do, and we're taking away the Alleluia and the Gloria, right? And it's supposed to feel like something's missing during Lent. Like we're in a desert. It's supposed to actually feel like that. For me, I think my favorite part is on Holy Saturday when all the readings, it should be dark in the church, right? You've lit that fire outside, you process in and you're doing the readings in the dark. And then the organ comes in with the Gloria and the lights come on and you hear all the instruments that were supposed to be unplugged are back in, and the choir is booming and you're about to hear, right, Christ is risen, not the song, but in the gospel. It's I love that moment. And then you hear the Alleluia. It's just this amazing thing. And sometimes they'll turn the lights off and on and have the Gloria, have them on. I just can't. You guys, I'm not going to be able to go unless I go to some place I've never been this week. I may go to a new church on Easter Vigil on Saturday so that I can see it all happen in the middle of Wisconsin, Joel.
And afterwards, you will go and eat some Peeps, and they will remind you of the sweetness of the resurrection.
But
as they
after
remind
all
you of the
that,
staleness of the grave.
after
is
all that,
risen.
that's not my favorite. My favorite,
As they rise in the microwave, puffed up with the grace of the Holy Spirit.
if you can find a good deacon or a good priest who can sing the Exultet and chant it and listen to them talk about drawing out the honey from Mother Bee, that is my favorite part, actually, of the Triduum.
Amazing.
Why do you
Good
always got to make
stuff.
it about bees, man?
I love drawn out from Mother Bee. It's so good.
All right. Well, we are tied, actually. This is the first time this has ever happened. John and Jared both sitting at 41 points. So I will create a quick tiebreaker off the top of my head.
Yep.
Let's see. The correct way to prepare and eat lamb as Easter is coming up. That was always a traditional piece in my household. The leg of lamb came out on Easter Sunday. Jared, start us off. 20 seconds.
Well, I come from a pretty German family, and the way a true Wiener Schnitzel is eaten is that it's lamb. And I absolutely love lamb Wiener Schnitzel.
Fantastic. Good pull. Okay, Jonathan, good luck.
I don't even want to answer this because I just lost. I'm going to forfeit. He can win, but I was going to say sous vide to the perfect temperature and then reverse sear, but please take it away, Jared.
That's amazing. No one mentioned mint jelly, which is a success for everyone involved. I know that's part of it, but it maybe shouldn't be. All right, so Jared tonight is our big winner on Around the Halo, episode number 7, and our first tie game there, which is super fun to go to the penalty kicks at the end. But you now get 30 seconds to talk about anything that you want. It could be a shameless self-promotion of Word on Fire in your organization, or it could be just a shout-out to all of your kids. And if you can remember all their birthdays, you're a better man than I. But go ahead, 30 seconds. Go right ahead.
Yeah, definitely give a shout out to my wife, who's taking care of my gaggle of children right now back home. Shout out to all my kids as well. And yeah, if you're interested in anything we're doing at Word on Fire, I definitely suggest going to wordonfire.org. We've got a lot of great stuff going on in the Institute. If anyone watching is interested in learning more about the faith or anything else, we've just got a lot of resources for you in there. And then also just a shameless kind of fun plug. I'm actually competing in a Scottish Highland Games here in about a month. So I've been training for that, and I love that world. So
Awesome. Well done.
Post that on social media, bro. I want to see all of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. And by the way, there was something else that I was supposed to do tonight, John. Were we going to show for closing a quick snippet of something that we had coming up that we had worked on with Word on Fire and University of St. Thomas?
Yep, it is in your chat on Zoom to make it easy for you to share on the screen. Hopefully everyone can hear it. It is, I'll kind of do the intro into it. So University of St. Thomas in Houston, which is with Max Studios, which is where Darnell and Bridget do so much great work with them. They're partnered with us and have been for a while. With Word on Fire as well, doing this kind of new evangelization digital media series, which is incredible. I probably should have just let Darnell talk about it since he knows everything and has been working hard on it. But we finally have the trailer, Darnell.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's like pumped. I can't wait. Let's check it out. Everyone can see it. Do you want to say anything about it, Darnell, that I missed?
Yeah, so it's super cool. It's been a great collaboration that we've been doing with Word on Fire, and we've partnered with Bearded Blevins. We've partnered with Leah Darrow, with Father Rob Gallia, and with Haley Stewart, who's also with Word on Fire, to kind of talk about different social media platforms and how best to evangelize, pre-evangelize, share your faith, share your story on there. First episode drops April 18th. It's the Monday after Easter, so check it out. It's awesome.
Sweet. Okay, 1 second. I'm just adding in a scene here so that we can take a look at this particular element on the window here. And we're going to do this, and I'm going to scale it so that everybody can see.
You're doing great.
Sorry for the delay.
What do I have
There it
that
goes.
is unique that I can offer the world?
Social media is where people are.
There's some kind of safety in just chatting in the DMs.
The most important thing is relevance and authenticity.
And I think it does take a vulnerability.
You should have live streamed this.
I should have.
Everything you post, you're talking to one person, and they are listening to you on their little screen, on their phone, when they can't sleep at 2 a.m.
It's crazy what God can do with this platform.
First thought I have when something new comes out is, okay, how are we going to bring Jesus there?
People want to see you enjoying life and living out who you are as a person.
Consistency and commitment is key.
And I think what I love about digital media is that it is a way for us to connect with people.
I was walking my dog, and they were looking at me, and they're looking at the dog, and they're saying, Father Rob has a dog. It's like he's a human being.
And so it really is more about the community than it is about the content that they're producing.
The church needs all of us, and the church needs you. And so when you're sharing things on social media about who you are and what you're passionate about, that's significant, and it's going to reach someone.
Good job, Darnell.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel like I'm wearing the same shirt in every shot.
You know what? You got to stick with what works, Darnell. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be concerned about that. In fact, there you go. I like your shirt choice, and there's nothing wrong with that. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight on Around the Halo. We are back next week on Tuesday night with Pardon the Intercession with Joel and John and myself, obviously. Thanks to all the chat for keeping all of the conversation going. You guys are great, and it was really fun to have everybody this evening. So we are going to stick around and do some community games afterwards on the channel for anybody that wants to join us for that. We're going to relaunch the stream in just a couple of minutes. And thanks again. And thanks to all of you guys, obviously, for great discussion tonight. And I hope that everybody has a fantastic Holy Week here coming up.